Welcome back to the show. We got another great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. I just want to let everybody know really quickly, if you haven't done it, go do it right now. I'm telling you right now, open your free account. It's so easy to do. You won't believe it. XRPwealth589.com. Look, you want to start getting the best night's sleep you've ever had, you do it right here. You guys know I spread my stuff out on multiple platforms, and this is one of the most recent right here. And I'm just reminding everybody, you can open your free account too if you go to XRPwealth589.com, and you will start getting the best night's sleep that you've ever had in crypto, because you get human customer service. Can't find it anywhere except Caleb and Brown right now. Make sure you go open your account. You won't be sorry. Take a look at this. $3.46 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 0.1. Bitcoin right now, 106,000 plus. Ethereum, 2,600 plus. XRP is $2.26 right now. Now, we're up 4.3 on the 24, and we're off 0.2 on the 7-day. But more importantly is where we are with the price right now at $2.26. We're going to cover this at the end of the video, but we'll need to remember that price. We're at $2.26. Now, let's start right here. This is Metaplanet just acquired an additional 1,112 Bitcoin. The MicroStrategy of Japan has now reached an important milestone, having accumulated over 10,000 Bitcoin, over $1 billion worth. So that's what's going on right now. We know that this is going to spread as far as corporate treasuries, certainly state funds, state wealth funds, and all of these, in the federal level, and different countries are going to begin to start taking positions in these assets, as we're seeing. And I think Bitcoin's not the only one. But to speak to Bitcoin, let's listen to Tom Lee talk about his predictions of Bitcoin price. 150, 200K, 250K this year. Somebody tell me which one.
What's Bitcoin? What is it moving with? Just risk assets at this point? It got back to an all-time high, which you were forecasting as well. But now I think, what are we, 104 this morning? So it's pulled back.
Yeah, I think it's consolidating. It makes sense. Bitcoin is responding to global liquidity, which is moving up, and I think anticipating a dovish Fed next year. So that's a tailwind for Bitcoin. But, Bitwise has a great stat. 95% of all Bitcoin's been mined, but 95% of the world doesn't own Bitcoin. So I just think that there's still a huge demand versus supply imbalance, meaning there's a lot more potential buyers of Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And so I think there's a lot of upside into year end.
Into your 150 target?
Yeah, 150, maybe 200, even 250 this year.
What?
Yeah. Okay, remember those numbers too. We're sitting at 226, and he's talking about 150, 200, maybe even 250 for Bitcoin this year. Okay, just keep those numbers in mind. As we're seeing, USDC, now launched on the XRP ledger, is now live with Decent Wallet as well. Shout out to them. And we know tomorrow is a big day, because tomorrow is the day that the Genius Act gets the full vote on the floor for final passage. Oh my goodness. Talking about history tomorrow. Historic day tomorrow for the Genius Act. And meanwhile, what do we see? The numbers are creeping up here. The chances of a Franklin Templeton spot ETF decision drop tomorrow, and the odds are massive right now, saying an 89% chance of approval. And I'm sure the stablecoin bill passage wouldn't hurt none. And then we remind you, just the same as we see in the first bit of news today here, Metaplanet acquiring 1,112 Bitcoin to put it over 10,000 Bitcoin, doing the MicroStrategy bit, right? And then we see Franklin Templeton getting the 89% chance here. But I show you this because this is Trident, right? Trident has taken a position here, Trident Digital, of a $500 million plan for an XRP treasury. This is what I believe speaks to the Shane Ellis theory, which is the large corporates, institutions coming off the sidelines and taking massive positions in XRP and soaking up the liquidity off of the exchanges into their corporate treasuries, into their business model, not just corporate treasuries. Remember, there's other companies out here that need to use XRP every day for payments. And this will create an upward pressure and demand as we get that legislative clarity, because then no one will have a gray area about where they are with these digital assets. They will be allowed to use them in scale, in mass, and then you have the corporate treasuries and the ETFs, and then I believe the U.S. digital bond issuance from the U.S. government, U.S. Treasury, which I think is soon to follow legislation. And this will be how the U.S. government acquires said assets without costing the taxpayer money, but yet getting them to make money along with them. And then the government has the majority of the assets at the end of the day. Sounds about right, doesn't it? Listen to the first part of this from David Schwartz right here.
The best example of this that we can all see clearly is stablecoins. There is not a more institutional product than stablecoins in existence. They're launched by institutions. Their direct customers are institutions. But we've seen billions of dollars of DeFi impact from these stablecoins. These stablecoins are used for collateral, for payment, for loans, in trustless ecosystems on public layer ones.
On public layer ones, because that's exactly what the XRP ledger is. We've heard David tell us that multiple times. XRP ledger is a public good, public layer ones. Well, now let's listen to Greg Kidd talk about what he's done. On stage at XRP Las Vegas, he talked about Vast Bank that he's bought and how they're working to put the entire banking industry direct on chain. And yes, he means the XRP ledger.
Now, Vast Bank. Tell us about Vast Bank.
So I made the decision of what would it be like if we could put the banking industry directly on chain. So you've heard some of the other tokenized asset talks today. So the question is, instead of having like a Circle or a Tether in between, what if US banks put dollars directly on chain, including the XRP ledger? So that would mean that the ledger of record isn't some like old 50-year-old bank core, it's actually the blockchain. And so to do that, had to buy a US bank, and you can imagine, even though I'm ex-Federal Reserve, having worked at Ripple, made some other investments in crypto, it was not an easy lift, but last year we were finally approved. Might have helped that I ran for Congress and was going to make a stink. And
right, and here in Nevada, right?
Here in Nevada in the 2nd District. We purchased Vast Bank, OCC, nationally chartered Fed holding company, and we have one purpose, which is to put the US dollar on chain. And what that means is these are FDIC insured US dollars, complete with Reg E chargeback protections, means if you get robbed, you get your money back, running on chain. And in particular, under the new administration with open banking and fair access, those dollars can be held by every person all around the world. So that means essentially everybody in the world has a US dollar deposit account, FDIC insured. And so I'd ask you a question. You've heard about the new 5% tax. If you're on this ledger and you're sending money from, you're here under one visa and you're sending it back home to your mom, if that money never leaves being a dollar, never leaves the country, never even leaves the bank, is that a remittance? I don't think so. I think in this new world, if everything is on ledger, including the XRP ledger, and it's just moving on ledger, what does it mean anymore to move money from one country to another? It doesn't really happen. It just all stays on ledger. And it's the XRP ledger that made that possible all the way back in 2012. That's really why I joined Ripple to this day. And so buying a bank and putting US dollars on, we've also made an investment in the Bank of London.
Bank of London.
And I'm closing a bank deal in Europe soon.
In Europe as well.
So that means dollars, pounds, and euros running 24/7 bank money on chain.
This is what I'm talking about, on the XRP ledger as well.
Chain on the XRP ledger.
On the XRP ledger. Okay. We'll put it on other ledgers too.
News.
So, yep. So
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the proliferation of the XRP ledger to house all the money, right? And then listen to this, make no mistake.
I've never seen in all my time since being in payments, in crypto, the planets aligned as well as they are now. And so amazing things are happening. We couldn't be more excited to be able to finally take everything that's on the ledger has a crypto address and a bank account routing number. It's not like there's this and this and they, it's one ledger, dual addressed. It's like in the old days, they used to have CDMA and GSM phone. Somebody finally said, why don't you just make the phones do both? Or 110 volt, 220. Now everything is one thing, but the ledger of record, make no mistake, is a crypto ledger like the XRP ledger.
And make no mistake, what he's telling all of us is that they have bridged by connecting the bank side to the actual new digital on-chain economy, hello XRP ledger, that this is all now connected and it's just going to continue to be connected. And that is mass adoption. That is reliant on U.S. government legislation. I couldn't be more excited where we're going, and it would make sense to me that we could see a potential record-breaking IPO for Ripple when they're ready to do it. It just makes sense that we could see it. And it also makes sense to me that when you see EggRag Crypto talk about XRP dominance going to 27%, could lead to a $27 XRP with a $1.5 trillion market cap. It makes sense to me. Think about what Greg is saying. I don't pretend to know when, but it does make sense to me at some point in the future that what we're seeing is the onboarding of the traditional world of finance and banking industry onto the XRP ledger, the ledger of record. And coming back to what Tom Lee said in the front of this video, he could see 150, 200, possibly 250K for Bitcoin this year. Well, just looking at EggRag Crypto here just a few days ago, he said when Bitcoin goes to 150, then XRP will be $27. And I say I don't have a problem with any of that. But looking at the more near term, he shared this morning that XRP is on the move, which it has been. The target to close above is still $2.30. That's why I told you to remember 226. We're 4 cents away from getting that bullish sentiment close that could begin to take us on the road to that $1.5 trillion market cap and a $27 price point. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.